All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go through this rotation assignment and we're going to go through the answers to all of the questions because I want to make sure you guys have a good review, good firm grasp before you take your quiz here in a few moments. All right, so we're going to go through these. I'm going to mark this particular one up and this will be available if you have questions for the sub after the video is over. All right, so let's just dive right in. So for this first one, and we did this on the board yesterday, we've got our tree and our shadow and our compass. All right, so on this particular image, it's the bird's eye view again. So we're looking at it from above. So we're a bird flying through the air looking down on top of this tree. Okay, and so what do we see? Well, we see the shadow pointing to the west, which means the sun is somewhere in the eastern sky. So the time of day that it is, it's going to be in the morning. If I could spell morning correctly. It's going to be in the morning. All right, so um, for morning, if you've got anywhere really between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. is fine because it's a pretty long shadow. It's not real short, so it's probably sometime in the earlier part of the morning. It's probably not much past 9 a.m. though. All right, so explaining why we think this. Well, if the shadow is pointing west, comma, the sun must be in the eastern sky, period. So it's morning. And that's all I'm really looking for. Just a little one sentence explanation talking about where the sun is. And so if the sun is in the east, it must be in the morning. All right. Now, I am not going to write an explanation for all of these. I'm not going to write one out. This is a good template to use for these 8 questions that are on the front. I will verbally tell you, and I will be marking this up, but I'm going to leave it to you to actually write those explanations out. And yes, you must write those explanations out. All right. All right, let's look at the next picture. So the next picture, our shadow, and it's a little bit longer this time, but it's pointing to the east. So if our shadow is pointing to the east, then the sun must be in the western sky. Now this is a longer shadow, so since the sun is in the west, we know it's in the afternoon. But it's probably between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. And I say that because not only is it in the western sky, but it's a little bit further in the western sky. Up here, we couldn't even see the tree trunk. So we know it's earlier in the morning. Whereas this, it's going to be later in the afternoon. It's going to be between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. Our explanation is just going to be the sun is in the western sky. So because it's in the western sky, it's in the afternoon. And you might even put something in there that because the shadow is so long, we know that it's later in the afternoon. Okay? All right, next one. Looking at the tree, we see no shadow. Now we're going to assume that this is during the day. All right, so since we're going to assume that it's during the day, the sun is going to be right over the top of this tree pointing down because we can't see the shadow. So if the sun is at the high point of the day, it's going to be noon or 12 p.m. Now for this one, there's not a lot of guessing. It's got to be in that noon hour. It's got to be right over the top at the highest point in the sky because we don't see any shadow coming off the sides here. All right, our explanation is there is no shadow that we can see, so the shadow must be underneath. So if it's in the daytime, it must be over the tree, so it would make it noon. And again, you don't have to put that word for word. Put it in your own words. Just talk about where the position of the sun would be and why that causes, in this case, no real shadow. Okay. Last one for this particular set of pictures. So on this one, very similar to the second one we did, shadows pointing to the east. So the sun's in the western sky, but my shadow's not quite as long. So it is in the afternoon because the sun's in the western sky. Because it's in the western sky, I know it's afternoon, but because this shadow's a little bit shorter than this one, we're going to say it's probably more like 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. All right. There's enough of the shadow where I'd say it's probably not real close to noon, but it's not as long as this shadow. This shadow is probably getting pretty close to sunset, whereas this one's probably later in the afternoon. Not quite to that 5 or 6 o'clock hour, but definitely past noon and 1 p.m. Okay? All right. Again, explanation is going to be very similar to the explanation you did up here, where we said the sun's in the western sky. So because the sun is in the western sky, it's going to be in the afternoon. All right. Next set of pictures are a little bit different because now this is very similar to the diagram you have in your notes. So we just have our house, and this is us looking at it as if we were standing on the ground. So these are bird's eye view pictures, and this is if we were just standing flat on the ground looking at the house. All right. This one's pretty easy. The sun is directly over the house, so all you really had to do is look at your notes and see that that is noon or 12 p.m. Our explanation: the sun is directly over the house. It's the highest point in the sky, and so that makes it noon. We're going to start picking up the pace just a little bit to go a little bit faster on these. All right. Again, it's up to you to write the explanations, but you're welcome to listen to what I'm saying as you write those explanations down. All right. All right. For this one, the sun is in the western sky, so it will be afternoon. And it's pretty late in the western sky. It's not quite to the horizon yet. It's not quite setting. So I'd say probably 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Somewhere in that range is probably good. Okay. Explanation: we're in the western sky, but we're not quite setting yet. So it's going to be in the afternoon, but later in the afternoon. All right, for this one, our sun is in the eastern sky, so it's going to be morning. And really, probably mid-morning, maybe even a little late morning. We're not quite over the house yet, but I would say probably anywhere from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m., somewhere in that range. I mean, if I had to put a number, I'd say that's probably right at 10 p.m. Or I'm not, sorry, not p.m., a.m. My bad. And you know what? I did that on the previous one, didn't I? Ooh, no, I'm okay. That was afternoon. Okay. So a.m. My apologies. So 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Because this is probably right at the 10 a.m. spot. This is pretty close. Because if we were to draw a sun every hour like we did in our on the board, or we did if you did that in your notes, then that's probably going to be right at that 10 a.m. slot. Okay. Last picture on the front side, we've got the sun here, and man, it is fixing to go down in the western sky. We're about to hit sunset, so I'm going to go ahead and just put sunset, sundown, or dusk. And so I would say 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. because the sun is on its way down in that particular picture, going down in the western sky. Okay. Now, this next one, we didn't get an opportunity to look at this yet, so I want to spend just a little bit talking about this. This diagram's a little bit weird. All right, this is a strange diagram, but you're going to see it again, so it's important that you know. And some of you may have been able to look at this and see what's going on. So this little dot in the middle, that is actually the Earth's axis. So the arrow shows that the Earth is rotating. So the Earth is spinning in this direction. It's rotating in this direction. So this is as if we were looking at the Earth either from out in outer space. If we're way up here, we're looking down and looking at either the North Pole or the South Pole. Okay, like we're looking down on top of a globe that's spinning. And this sunlight represents just the sun. The sun's just out here, and here's the light coming towards it. So it shows us this is the dark half of the Earth, where it's nighttime, and this is the light half of the Earth, where it is daytime. All right. So again, this one's a little bit harder to read, but since the Earth is rotating this direction, the letter A is fixing to be at the highest point in the sky. All right, the sun's fixing to be at the highest point in the sky. So really, this is pretty close to noon. And it's not quite there, so if you put 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., then that's pretty close. All right. For letter B, the Earth's fixing to rotate, and this particular spot is fixing to go from daytime to nighttime. All right, that's fixing to happen. So B is about to experience sunset, or sundown, or dusk. And that's right in that 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. time frame. Okay. Letter C is headed towards midnight. Now, straight up midnight would probably be about right there. All right. So I'm actually going to go ahead and write midnight here because I will accept that as an answer. It's not quite there, but really anything from 10 p.m. to 12 a.m., anywhere in there, it's going to be pretty close. Let me just get this over so you guys can see that. There we go. All right, and the last one is letter D. And letter D is fixing to go from nighttime to daytime. It's fixing to go from the dark side here to the light side. So it's about to experience sunrise or sun up or dawn. Now it's not quite there yet. So really we're looking at this 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. time frame, somewhere around there, 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. Now guys, this particular diagram, you're going to see again. All right, so it's very important that if you don't understand this, when we review this next week, it's real important for you to ask me about it. If as a class even you feel like we need to spend some time explaining it, spend a little bit more time on it, we can. It's just a weird angle that we're looking at the Earth diagram, because again, it's like we're looking at it from outer space, up here like we're out in outer space looking down on the North or the South Pole. And then the Earth is spinning like we're looking at a globe that's spinning underneath us. Okay. Explanation. Just the things that we talked about there. That that A is going to be at the highest point. B is going from daytime about to go to nighttime. C is pretty close to the middle of the nighttime, and D is nighttime fixing to be day. So that point where there's about to be a change. Okay. All right, let's look at our houses. Now, these are similar, but the reason that I put these on here is that depending on what diagram you're looking at, most of the time, I'm going to flip back over real quick, most of the time, the west is going to be on the left, and the east is going to be on the right. But it doesn't have to be. So on these diagrams, if you notice, I flip-flopped it. And I put the east on the left and the west on the right. Okay? And you probably won't see this, but you could. So I wanted you to just be prepared for it because for north and south, it's pretty common. North always points up and south always points down. And usually west points left and east points right when we're looking at a map or a diagram. But east-west can be a little bit tricky because actually if I'm standing on the ground, I'm looking south in this picture. Whereas in the pictures on the front, if I'm standing on the ground, I'm actually looking to the north. So the north is not up, but the the direction of the house, almost like if I was walking this way, I'd be going north. I'd be facing to the north. The doorway here is actually facing south, is looking south. Okay. So again, not trying to be tricky, just wanted you guys to pay really close attention to the east-west. Okay. So this first one, because the sun is in the eastern sky, it is most definitely in the morning. And I would say probably around I would say 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. I'd say somewhere right in there. For this next one, sun still in the eastern sky, so still morning, but a little bit later in the morning. I'd probably say probably about 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. I'm going a little fast on these because especially after we did the front side, you guys should be able to knock these out pretty quick. So this one, sun's in the western sky, so it's in the afternoon, and it's pretty close to sunset. It's not quite there yet, but it's pretty close to sunset. So we're going to say it's probably in the 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. range. Probably pretty close to 5 p.m. All right. And then this last one, sun's still in the western sky, so it's afternoon. Not quite as late as the previous picture. Noon would be straight up here, so I'd say probably about 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., somewhere in there. All right. Now, if you didn't get an opportunity to fill out all the explanations yet, make sure you do that before you turn this assignment in, and good luck on your checkpoint quiz.